everyone, welcome back to my channel. On today's video, I'm going to give you some tips on how to find a home in Norway to rent. So how to find an apartment, a house where you can live, renting that space while you are in Norway. To all of you Norwegians watching this video, please help us out, write on the comments below, also like giving tips. And yeah, one thing that I have to say is that my experience in finding and renting like a home in Norway is mostly in Oslo, so I guess it will be more adapted to Oslo, although I think it's quite general. Let's start with where can you find homes, apartments that are for rent. My favorite website, and I think like the favorite of the whole Norway, is finn.no, but you also have hibbel.no. If anyone else knows any other site good for renting in like long periods of time, just write it down in the comments below. Basically what you have to do is go into these websites. On Finn you have to click in like the housing apartment and then for rent, but I'll leave it all here so you guys know what I'm talking about. And then you have to choose what kind of house are you looking for, if it's an apartment, if it's a like kollektiv, how they call it in Norwegian, which is a place where like a home that you share with more people. So it can be like an apartment with 6 bedrooms and you'll share it with 5 more people. Of course not your bedroom, you have your own bedroom, you share the apartment with the other people. You also have another type which is called hybel, which is a very Norwegian thing. It's basically when there is a house or apartment that has an extra apartment inside their own houses for rent. So people have this to make a little bit more money. There's a lot of like older houses that create a hybel in the garage or in the lower like floor of the house. So most hybels will be in older houses, not really in the city center, and they will probably not have a lot of light because the windows will be quite up because it's like in the underground kind of, if you know what I mean. But there's positives about this. They're normally cheaper, bigger. Then you also have other types more related to like a whole house or just like the whole house, or a type that's called rekkehus, which is a type of house. Imagine like a big house divided in several ones. So you actually have a neighbor glued to your house, and sometimes you even have on the top floor, but they're like maybe 2 floors. They're not very big. They sometimes have a little garden in the back, so it can be also nice. And then you have a 2-mannsbolig, which is a house divided in 2. So a little bit like the rekkehus, but instead of being several, it's just like one big house divided in 2. Then you also have the possibility in the apartments part of renting like a studio, or what they called a 1-room, which is a very tiny apartment with a tiny kitchen, and you don't have like a bedroom, everything is in the same room, and a toilet. I lived in one of these when I moved to Oslo the first time. Actually the first time I moved to Oslo, I was living in a kollektiv, so with other people, which didn't go very well, you know, because or you really choose the people you live with, or it can be a little bit messy, if you know what I mean. So I wasn't there a long time. And then I moved to a 1-room apartment. It was 13 square meters, if you can believe this. And we had everything. We even have like the bed was upstairs in a way. It had like a ladder and you could go up. On the website you can also choose other things, like if you want to have a balcony, if you want to have an elevator, how much are you willing to pay per month, when do you want to move, the place in the city, like the area in the city you want to live, this kind of thing. So you have a lot to choose from. You just choose whatever you want, and then the website will give you a lot of different options. One of my biggest tips while you're searching on these websites is to actually look for the options in the map. So there's like an option to open the whole map of the city, this case Oslo for example, and it will appear where the houses are, and that makes it so much easier for you to organize where in the city and what are you looking at. So that's what I always do. I just choose like my maximum price of rent per month, and then I go to the map and see it in a map where it is. Now I really have to warn you guys that especially in Oslo, everything is very, very small. In Portugal, I was so used to have like big houses, big apartments, whilst in Oslo, everything is so tiny and so expensive. After you're searching in these websites, you probably find several ones that are of your interest, and the next step is to see when the visning is. The visning is for you to visit the property and check it out, see if you like it, but also talk with the owner, make friends with the owner basically, because here in Oslo, since there are more people searching than people wanting to rent, then the owner actually has a lot of choice. So if he doesn't like you, he will not give you the apartment. He has 10 or 20 more people interested, and he will just choose the one he prefers. So you really have to be charming, you know, talk to him, talk a little bit about you, tell him why you want the apartment, why do you like the apartment, and if during the visiting you really like the apartment and you want that apartment, tell him right away, right then, and if possible just sign the contract right then. Then if the owner, the landlord, likes you and agrees to give you his apartment or house to rent, he will get a contract where it specifies how long is the rent for. Normally it's from 1 year to 3 years. It's very, very rare when it's more than 3 years. That doesn't mean you can't stay there more than 3 years, but they will have to renovate the contract after 3 years. This also includes the option of you to give up or to move to another place before these 3 years that are in the contract, but you need to tell in advance, with 3 months in advance. He will also ask you in the contract for a deposit. This is normally 3 months rent. So if your rent is, for example, 1,000 euros, it will be a deposit of 3,000 euros, and this will not be touched. So it's going to be in a bank account, on your bank account. So you actually have to have a Norwegian bank account to rent a house in Norway, and so the deposit will be there untouched, completely locked, so the owner cannot touch this money. But in case you ruin the apartment, then he can take out money from this amount to solve the problems you made. Something that happens a lot is every year the rent goes up a little bit because of infraction. What also happens is, imagine that you have a contract for 3 years, like I said, and then those 3 years are over and you still want to live in that apartment. The owner would probably say, okay, you can live here, but the rent will go up. In the contract, it will also say whether if you pay internet or if it's included, whether if you pay like heating or if it's included. It will also say if the, for example, the fridge and the oven are included. A lot of times you see pictures on Finn or like Hybel.no where you see like the whole kitchen there, and then in the description box it says like the electronics are not included, and then you would have to buy some and put in a house by yourself. So make sure you read in the contract if it's included or not, or just ask him when you're in the visiting. This is the same if the house has furniture included or not. For example, I had the main bed included, but the rest of the furniture we bought and decorated the house ourselves. But there are a lot of houses which have everything included, even the furniture, even like the kitchen utensils, so like plates, cups, everything. To get a contract for renting in Norway, a lot of times the owner will ask you for recommendation letters. I had to do that, or from a previous renting owner, or from a person that lived with you before, or even sometimes from like your boss. It will for sure ask you as well for a work contract. So the landlord, the owner, they want to make sure you can pay rent every month. So they will need to look at your salary to see if you can do that for them, if there's no problem. Then you found a house, you signed a contract, you're ready to move, but you cannot move right away. Unless they specify that the apartment is like ready to move in, like you can go now. Unless that's the situation, which normally it's not, you have two options. You normally can move on the first day of the month, so you can pay like the whole month, or you can move in halfway of the month. So for example, 15th of July, you can move in and you pay just half of the month. The owner has to deliver the apartment to you completely clean, but this is a trick. I did this. You can suggest to the owner that if you clean it yourself, then it deducts from the rent of that month. And we actually did this several times now, because sometimes it's easy to clean, other times, I mean, oh my god, we regret it, but normally it's okay. Like, you clean it as you want, you make sure everything is like you like it, and then you don't have to pay so much of rent that month, which helps. In terms of prices, of course, it varies in Norway, so it's very, very difficult for me to tell you like specific prices of things, but in Oslo, it's expensive, okay, you guys? It will be expensive for sure. I think that was all I had to say. Let me know if I'm forgetting something. Write down in the comments tips you have, questions you have, just let me know. And I hope you guys really loved this video and it was helpful somehow for you guys. If you are right now moving to Norway in this process of finding an apartment, a home, I wish you all the luck and do not give up. I hope you guys have a wonderful week and I'll see you on my next video. Bye!